football franchise, talking about that guy. Hoogie, Tyler every week. Heavy analytics, competition real steep. Whoa, that's sweet. Oh, in this belief. Nick so sick, man, bringing ships the whole fleet. Goats, not sheep. Follow every tweet. Don't sleep, always finding sleepers on the street. Boy. F3, winning every single league. Money back guaranteed, but it's free. Welcome to the franchise. Welcome to the franchise. Let's go.
Welcome, everyone, to the Fantasy Football Franchise Podcast. My name is Nick Sigmund. With me, as always, I got Tyler Bogey.
Adrian! I want to fight you!
Peterson?
No, I'm like got the hood on because I'm like Rocky.
And it feels like we're in a meat locker.
Yeah, it's pretty cold.
Look,
I'm not wearing a jacket.
Yeah, but that was by listener request. Next week, you take off even more.
No, I'm going to go back to the tank top. People didn't like it, but I'm going to bring it back.
They didn't like it because it was too much on you, Nick.
You saw my trap.
Your chest.
no, people felt trapped. You read that wrong.
Yeah, we're on YouTube. For those of you who don't know, you can see us talk football.
So, I'm just gonna go ahead. Nick, it's not your job anymore. I took it over. You don't have FMLA.
Just do it! Make your dreams come true!
Tyler, I just want to ask how you feel real quick. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Before the season goes, I just remember, I was thinking about this today. How many times did we bring up Blake Bortles? He ain't got no job.
Yeah, I mean, he's not doing good.
Do I drop him?
Yes.
It's time.
I'm not dropping him in Superflex.
In our dynasty league, I have Blake Bortles on the bench, and I'm
Yeah, I mean, we've got other options. Yeah, so I would. I mean,
gonna add Tom Savage.
yeah. Yeah, that's it.
He's not a bad quarterback. I mean, he didn't do bad at Houston. I mean,
Well, I also worry, too. I mean, this goes a little bit into the news, but, I mean, how much also was this the offensive coordinator? Like, he just got fired.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've seen Blake Bortles be successful, and then now all of a sudden they need a new offense coordinator. Oh, and we need to bench Blake Bortles.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, well, which one was it? I just feel like
Why
I don't
not
know.
both?
I'm not saying Blake Bortles is a good quarterback because he's not. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like you're also kind of making Blake Bortles pay for the sins of someone else, like, in some ways.
I mean, I would honestly say if you're going to drop him, you don't really need to add someone. Just give it a couple weeks.
Yeah, it is what it is. I almost got rid of Blake Bortles about a week or two ago in the Superflex League.
it's crazy. I mean, here's a tweet from Michael Fabiano. Just looking ahead to Week 13, here's some quarterbacks that are playing. You tell me if you saw this coming.
I did.
At the beginning of the season. Jeff Driscoll.
Yeah.
Cody Kessler.
Uh-huh.
Josh McCown.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Nick Mullins.
Of course.
Possibly Chase Daniels. And Colt McCoy.
Okay, Chase Daniels is not playing. Let me just make that clear.
They haven't said that Trubisky is playing yet.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
No, he's still questionable. They don't know that he's playing or not. I mean, they hope that he's playing, but I don't know that it's 100% certain that he's not had his questionable tag removed. We'll give it that. I mean, which this week 12 is not over yet, so they're not going to remove it yet.
It is for me.
It's not. Yes, it is, because I played you and absolutely smashed you.
Oh, wow.
But
Well,
I just know there was a little thing that came out that the Bears basically said he will be there for Week 13. That was earlier this week. It was Friday or Saturday. So I don't know.
Just face it. He's not playing.
Okay.
Well, we're in the news already, so let's just get on with it. Melvin Gordon with sprained MCL, grade 2, missing weeks.
Yeah, I mean, this is just. I hope
what I
you
love-
got your backup.
Melvin Gordon was like, "Hey guys, I can play. Like I'm okay. Let's do it." He had to convince the coaches to play him, and then he sprains his MCL.
Yeah, and I mean, hindsight's always 20/20. I mean, you wanted to say,
mine
well,
is always 2020.
but I really thought he was going to miss that game because I mean, it's the Cardinals.
Who's this?
Melvin Gordon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I mean, thanks, Jonathan, for being part of this thing. But no, I don't know. I thought it would have been smarter to rest him. I think he did kind of talk his way into it, but it is what it is. So
I was reading this tweet from Adam Schefter, and he says Broncos head coach Vance Joseph said tight end Jeff Heuerman has 3 broken ribs and a bruised lung and is out for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Just little news and notes. But I read it as Broncos head coach Vance Joseph and tight end Jeff Heuerman have 3 broken ribs. I'm like, what in the world happened?
When you just hug too hard,
Those
after a good play, coach just came
Thanksgiving
over.
hugs.
All right, here, get in here, big guy, and they just hugged it out way too hard. But no, I mean, with Melvin Gordon, it's fine. I saw this, interesting kind of tweet, and I like to give credit for who tweeted it, but they said in redraft, who do you want more, Leonard Fournette or Melvin Gordon rest of season?
For like after this injury?
Yeah. Well, and also after the Leonard Fournette fight.
I mean, how long is he going to get ejected? Just for a game?
We don't know yet.
Usually it is a game to 2 games. I mean, you can look back at
Well, I mean, Philip Lindsay also got no games. Like, they counted the ejection as good enough. But, I mean, it also was, too, less of a fight as this. Like, Philip Lindsay was throwing punches in a pile of people, where this was like 2 men going at it. And then apparently they still were fighting on their way to the locker rooms. Like, they still had to stop them. So... this was the weirdest thing, is that if you go back and look at the game, they aren't, like, Leonard Fournette is not on the play. It literally was Dante Moncrief went up for a touchdown, and so the corner or whatever his name was, and the defensive back. And they both caught it simultaneously. So now it's like, is this an interception, or is this like a touchdown catch thing? Like, what is this? Mm-hmm. And the referees, like, blow the whistle, and they're still fighting it. Like, you ever play that game when you were kids? We played it in soccer, where you put the soccer ball in between your hands and you just get the ball.
Yeah.
And you, like, beat the crap out of each other trying to just obtain the ball. Mm-hmm. That's what happened for, like, 4 minutes of just an unending, like, okay, well, referees blew the whistle, right? The referee's just standing above them blowing the whistle, calling, tweet, and these guys are still like, all right, guys, we're not gonna.
I mean, if I was a ref, I'd be like, I'm not getting in there.
No, I don't blame the referee. I'm just saying, like, at what point do 2 grown men decide, you know what, I'm just gonna let go of the ball, like, and then all of a sudden, because of that, then the Leonard Fournette, like, it was like a 4th grade playground, like, where just. Like, the teacher's like, so what happened? Mm-hmm. You both caught the ball, and then you wrestled for 5 minutes, and then then this guy punched little Timmy because what? Like,
to answer your question, I'm gonna say Leonard Fournette.
Anyways, that's my thought. I go Leonard Fournette as well.
I think he has more like the chances of him being suspended more than 2 games is pretty
lower.
low.
And I feel like Melvin Gordon, like week 3, I think like 3 weeks from now, they play the Chiefs. So I could see him pushing himself to try to get back to that game because it's a big game.
Yeah, but there's not a likelihood they're gonna win.
I mean, that's 2 weeks from now. Like, I mean, so like the best case scenario for Melvin Gordon, I feel like getting back on the field is the worst case scenario for Leonard Fournette. Mm-hmm. So I'll take Leonard Fournette.
Josh Adams supposed to get more involved.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not playing Josh Adams as it is, and you had better options, then keep playing those options. The Eagles' offense just doesn't impress me outside of Zach Ertz. I mean,
oh yeah,
that man.
I believe him, yo. I don't know why, but I do.
I do. I think Josh Adams is one of the better running backs on that team, and look what he did this week. What was it, 78 yards, something like that? I mean, majority of the carries, I believe. I mean, I think you have to.
I mean, if you were already playing Josh Adams, keep playing him because it gets better. If you weren't playing Josh Adams and you had better options, stick with those better options.
Question, are you selling or buying Josh Adams in Dynasty?
I'm not buying.
He is, quote, good
Okay.
right now, but I think he will get replaced.
Yeah,
I don't think that he is a franchise running back.
What
If
if you're
I
trying to
need
run
him,
that up?
I'm going to play him. If I don't need him, I would love to trade him.
Okay,
but
so
trade
you're a
deadline's
Dynasty
over.
player, you're running at it, do you throw a second at somebody?
Boy,
You're running at it, you realize, hey, maybe you're on the bus. The Eagles get a running back next year, or maybe it's J.J. And you're like, I know this is short-lived. I'm well aware.
If I'm in need of a running back, sure.
You had Melvin Gordon. He's down now. You don't have the backup. You're sitting there going, well, that sucks.
Sure. If I can get Josh Adams and I can play him, sure. But
Okay.
I'm keeping my expectations low.
And I think that's a factor too that we don't talk a lot about. Like I have people, we have people tweet us on our podcast thing, and one of the things that they oftentimes talk about, which I get the Twitter thing, is that people like forget when you make a trade, you have to understand: are you playing this person right away? Are you not? Like if I'm not going to play Josh Adams and I'm giving up a second, then I don't want him for a second. Like that's just too much.
Right.
But if I'm playing him, like I'm going to obtain him and he is going to plug and play for my team, I could do it.
okay.
If I'm running at it, I don't want to. I'm not rebuilding with Josh Adams. That's not
So I'm going to go through a list of a few IRs and injuries.
just a few.
Let's do this. Let's run through the injuries. After you're done with the injuries, if any injuries stick out to you, talk about it.
Andy
Okay.
Dalton is going to IR. Jack Doyle is going to IR. Marvin Jones is going to IR. Marlon Mack had a concussion. Evan Ingram had a hamstring injury. And you already mentioned Jeff Huriam, and
Yeah, him and the coach both have
they both had broken
yeah,
ribs.
both of them. Yeah, I mean,
And obviously Mo.
Evan Ingram, I think is fine. Just so you know, there's
Evan Ingram's coming. He's going to be back.
Yeah, he needs some more magnesium and water.
and potassium. He needs more bananas. I shipped him a whole bushel.
The biggest one out of this is Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Because he is a systemic dysfunction for this team.
He can get him to the playoffs, but he can't get him
The
past
fact that he is, I don't care what anybody says, well, Andy Dalton's a subpar quarterback. Not really. Andy Dalton is a scorer.
Did you watch the first few weeks this
Andy
year?
Dalton can throw touchdowns, and that's what he does.
You don't get the red rifle name by accident. You got to earn it.
Yeah. You either got to shoot your eye out, or
Good Christmas reference.
Yeah,
Continue. I
yeah.
like it. We'll allow it.
But I told Tyler before the podcast, you still have to play AJ Green. I mean, because I think that he's still going to command targets. So I'm still playing him.
My problem is now Tyler Boyd.
Yeah,
I was rooting on Tyler Boyd to maybe
and
be
he
my
did
wide
it.
receiver
He
2-3.
did it this week. Boyd did it this week. And
Here's
he did
another
well.
thing too is, and I see a lot, is Tyler Boyd's scores. Tyler Boyd's big plays are just that. They are big plays. Being a backup quarterback, you come in, you can make big plays, but you're also trying to play reserved. You're trying to reestablish your name. You don't want to go for big plays. You're going to go for the safety net. So I think that who does this help the most? This helps out whatever is it, CJ.
Uzama?
Yeah, Uzomah. I can spell his name, I just can't say it. It helps him out because everybody loves safety blankets. But I think AJ Green,
I like to feel safe. And I love blankets.
AJ Green has a little regression, but not much. I don't think. I think that he stays relatively around the same.
I also worry though too, like I maybe agree with AJ Green, but I also worry about too, like, does AJ Green come back? I mean, this season's a wash. Let's call it. I mean, Cincinnati looks terrible. For the love of everything, they have Hugh Jackson on the freaking sidelines. I mean,
he comes back.
But what I'm saying is okay, maybe
mean-
he comes back, but I think he comes back a week or two later. Why rush?
What's
the point?
He personally probably wants to come back so he can get paid. It's just whether the coaches let him come back.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, why why risk A.J. Green, who's an older quarterback, for a season that you're going nowhere with?
So, I mean, that's something to monitor.
Wide
I mean,
receiver.
obviously, this isn't even a question if he doesn't play.
Yeah, sorry.
I tell you the guy that I think it hurts the most out of everybody, except for Andy Dalton, is Joe Mixon.
Yeah,
Joe Mixon is
you
already on a
stack the
team
box.
that's trailing behind, and he's not getting carries. Now put in backup quarterback who can't score as efficiently as Andy Dalton. You're even playing further behind. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
I don't. I'm telling you, there's a lot of pieces that I'm just not a huge fan of. I will tell you this: the implications as far as dynasty. I'm going to let Boyd. I'm going to let AJ Green. I'm going to let Mixon. I'm going to let all of them just not do as well because I think this whole team's kind of a dumpster fire. And here in a week or two, start trying to buy them as dynasty assets. AJ Green, I bet you can get for peanuts after this year. And I think he has another year or two left. And I mean, same thing with Andy Dalton and Superflex. Jonathan already said, there's already this pre-notion that Andy Dalton is a terrible quarterback. And I mean, I think he's not that bad, and I think he's a good wide, quarterback 3 in a Superflex. And if I can buy him cheap because he was hurt, because he's quote-unquote a bad quarterback, because that's where you find value.
I mean, he's quarterback 16 right now.
A quarterback 3. I'm more than happy. I have him in a Superflex league. I have Carson Wentz and Cam Newton, and I have Andy Dalton sitting on my bench. And I was talking to Jonathan. He was talking about the Superflex question. He wanted to trade off Jared Goff. And I was like, listen, I get inquiries all the time about Andy Dalton. They're like, I'll give you a second-round rookie. And I'm like, I'd rather him ride my bench just in case I have injury. I mean, Cam Newton runs the ball a lot. There's injury. I mean, Carson Wentz was injured at the beginning of this year. I mean, Andy Dalton was a fine start for the first 4 weeks while Carson Wentz was hurt. So, I don't know. Just kind of my 2 cents. And all the rest, I mean, adjust accordingly. I don't want to sit here and spend forever talking about Jack Doyle. I mean,
Play Eric Ebron now.
Yeah, I mean, well, you were already, and now you're just sad about Jack Doyle. Move on.
I wish I
any
was.
other news note, Nick?
Nope.
Watch Naheem Hines. That's my last little thing with Marlon Mack and concussion. And join us Sunday morning. We'll talk all about that. We do the Periscope. It's a great bit of fun.
Will we, though? Will we talk about Naheem Hines?
No. But I'm just saying, watch him. He's a good play, I think, if that happens.
All right. I guess next we'll get into our waiver wire pickups. Before we do so, I want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Sport Bracketeers. It's a daily fantasy sports company that makes a unique bracket-style format where users can enter a contest and advance through the contest bracket by answering statistical questions in a head-to-head format. Questions like how many yards will this player get, or these combination of players get. It's the first DFS bracket-style contest that you can finish in the same day. Questions are answered in advance, much like a lineup is set before a game starts. And so, they have free ones all the time, but it's like, how many passes will Aaron Rodgers throw today? Well, apparently it's not going to be a lot of completions, but it's going to be a lot of passes. And so you just, you throw out a guess, and at the end of the day, we figure out who wins, and you'll be going head-to-head with other people who also guessed on these questions.
Yeah, I think it's a unique thing. I get sick of the usual DFS. I tweeted that out. I really do. I mean, I think that those have a place and stuff, but I like this better. To me, it takes more skill, less luck involved, and that's what I'm all about when I start talking about DFS. So, check it out for sure.
All right. You guys can talk about some of these. I think someone else put these on here.
Well, I think one person that we have to talk about, and he's probably more than likely picked up, but if you've not picked up Gerald Everett, tight end for the Rams, is that you got to. I mean, the man is on fire. He is doing fantastic, catching touchdowns, and especially in this Barfy tight end landscape. And let's say you were the person that had Jack Doyle. Just go look at your waiver wires, see him there if he is there, and understand completely why I said, hey, let's add this guy. He's good. He's a good player. He's getting more and more involved, and I think this week he had something like 18 points and half-point PPR. So, 18.4 points this week. Last week was 8.5. Week before that, 8.3. Now, the weeks before that, 2, 0, 3, 3, But he's coming into fruition. I think people are not trusting him. 3 weeks in a row of him blowing up. If he's there, which he may not be, because 2 weeks, doing pretty decent. But he is my number one waiver wire pickup. The other person that I kind of wanted to talk about was Justin Jackson. I'm not a huge fan of him, but he got some snaps when Melvin Gordon went down. So maybe worth a pickup in deeper dynasty leagues. I don't want to start him.
Yeah, one of these on here. I wanted to ask you a question real quick. Where would you have taken Corey Davis in a redraft at the beginning of the year?
What do you like in the 7th round, 6th, 7th round?
Something like that.
Uh-huh.
And so where would you have taken Adam Humphries?
Undrafted.
Yeah. Other than one game where Corey Davis went and got 32 points earlier in the year, their waveforms for PPR totals is exactly the same.
Wow.
Like each of them has one really good game, and then they're both wide receiver 3s the rest of the year, basically.
Yeah, and I like Adam Humphries, and he's kind of in the same boat of when do you play him, but he's been warming up here recently, and I think he's a sneaky play.
I think, or my belief is that Jameis Winston likes Adam Humphries type players. I mean, Cameron Brate, Adam Humphries, these short pass guys, and then Mike Evans is his person to go deep with or deeper with. Deshaun Jackson, he tried to go deep with Deshaun Jackson, but he got pass interference, and so Deshaun Jackson just couldn't. He couldn't really do much this last weekend. But Adam Humphries is a guy I really, really like, and we talked about him a couple weeks ago. But
yeah, no, I love him. So not a whole lot of waiver wire pickups, although we've had a lot of kind of injury happen. A lot of them are with the quarterbacks and tight ends that are kind of already
Jack
owned
Doyle,
or
there's no one
replaced.
to pick up because everyone has Eric Ebron already.
Yeah, so it's just kind of awkward. My biggest person, if he is on there, he may very well not be, and I know it's a reach, but Gerald Everett is my number one pickup for sure. Outside of that, Adam Humphries and then maybe Justin Jackson, but both of those are kind of like if you got the waiver spot for. So not a whole lot of waiver wires today, so we're going to have a lot more of free range talking.
Uh-oh.
I just need more time, Arthur. More time.
I just need more time and money.
And money. Hey, let's lie low, but let's also get a bunch of money. You know that we get money by not lying low, right?
Let's make some more noise, Tyler.
That sounded sexual.
Noise. Let's make some more noise.
Yeah, some more noise.
So for this last segment, we're going to talk about certain players that we feel are going to be really good going into the rest of the year, or certain players you may be comparing, like, hey, do I start this guy or this guy? And we're going to go into more depth than usual to explain, like, this is why you should play this guy for the rest of the year or for these specific games and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and we're going to bust out some extra stats. We're kind of doing this as a interesting little tidbit kind of podcast, so I'm excited about it. Nick, did we ever drop a pick 'em up or a main event? We just ignored the drops today?
We just ignored the drops today.
Pick 'em up!
Just for me. I had to.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Someone kick us off.
So I'm going to talk about Gus Edwards.
The Gus Bus.
Gus Edwards. Jonathan was in love with him. He's giving me sex eyes right now, but so this last week he did pretty decent, and I will talk. Yeah, I want to say in front of this, he did not catch a single pass. He was not targeted once.
Was he not?
So T.Y. Montgomery was the pass catching back this week. So he's not really someone to take in a PPR league really high.
I don't need to catch no passes for losers and poor people.
For the next few weeks, Gus Edwards, he's going to play the Falcons next week, who's given up the second most fantasy points to running backs. Then the Chiefs, who have given up the most fantasy points to running backs. Then he plays the Bucks, who's given up the sixth most fantasy points to running backs. And finally, he plays the Chargers, who give up the 13th most. This past week, he played the Raiders, who are the 9th worst rushing defense in the league. And he's going to play 3 more defenses that are even worse than they are. And he did fantastic last week, in terms of yardage at least. 23 carries, 100 and something yards. Don't have the stat in front of me right now. With all that being said, again,
23 carries, 118 yards, 5.1 yards a carry, no touchdowns. And with those no touchdowns, had 11.8 fantasy points, which is puts him as a running back 2 this week
Yeah.
on no touchdowns.
So he's not a great PPR find because he doesn't get a lot of catches. He also didn't get a big snap count. Snap count was 61%, but his rushing attempts were by far the most for his team. So they're bringing in Jarvis Allen to block and T.Y. Montgomery maybe to be the more receiving back. Also, it should be noted that it looks like T.Y. Montgomery took over at the end of the game since it was such a blowout. I mean, I was looking at the fourth quarter, and T.Y. Montgomery was playing the last couple drives.
Okay, so for this week, you said he got a lot of carries for the team, most carries for the team. We have not seen the Monday night game. So Lamar Miller, Derrick Henry, and Deion Lewis have not played.
Mm-hmm.
But where is he as far as the attempts for this week goes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Where was he ranked?
I guess you got it pulled up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to say 23 is quite a bit. I'm going to say like 3.
Nailed it. He was
3?
the third most. Nick Chubb getting 28 attempts. Zeke getting 26. Gus Edwards with 23. Right in front of Josh Adams at 22 attempts. So let's beg this question really quick. Who you want, Josh Adams or Gus Edwards?
I want Gus Edwards. Like I said, his schedule. He's playing the Chiefs, the Bucks, and the Falcons in the next 3 games.
Well, ironically enough, it's less muddy. Like, I feel like than Josh Adams.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, you do have the scare, like, when Alex Collins comes back, will he take the job? But I don't think so. Gus Edwards is playing better than Alex Collins ever did.
5.1 yards per carry, and I've said it almost every week. Doesn't denote fantasy success, but it does denote who wins the job.
And you can talk bad about the Raiders all you want, but their defense isn't the worst. It's the 9th worst. So it's like in the third,
It's not
the 30th
good.
percentile, but it's not.
It's not the worst. It's not good, but it's not the worst.
It's not as bad as some of these others.
I got better.
Not that much better.
Okay, so question: does Gus Edwards have a future as far as dynasty go? John, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, 23 carries and 113 yards. You said. I mean, it's a lot of production. I mean, he can obviously run the ball.
Do you spend a second on him?
Yeah.
Who
Who are you getting in the second round that can run, 23 carries, 113 yards?
The person the Ravens draft?
Have a solid, but why do they draft somebody?
They don't need to draft anyone.
They've got a guy who's breaking 100. He's the first Ravens running back to break 100 yards since 2015.
I mean,
A second, yeah. The first, no, because
But, I mean,
there's a chance that he's not anything.
Like I
next year.
said, he just started last week, right? He just started. He is just listen to that. Just put yourself in the Ravens coach and the Ravens owner. He is the first Ravens running back to break 100 yards since 2015.
and he just started.
I know, but I mean, I feel like we said the same thing about Alex Collins. The guy had 212 carries last year. I just feel like we just keep playing this Russian roulette game with the Ravens running back. No, it's this guy now. Now it's this guy.
Oh, I'm
And
not
then-
saying it's this guy and this guy. It's
But
going to be
you-
this guy for the rest of the year until next year they get another guy.
But you have to
But that was the question: was the dynasty implications? Does he have a future outside of this year? Are you buying him for dynasty?
And I'd buy him for a second round. Yeah.
As of right now, yes. And I mean, I'm going to pay for him what his current value is. And I mean, if I can get him for a second, sure. But I mean, I think that right now he has a future. Alex Collins would have had a future, but he disappointed. And
'cause
Gus Edwards has been a lot better.
And I'm going to go back to one of my early drafts. 2 people I got in the second round is Amir Abdullah and T.J. Yeldon. T.J. Yeldon is off and on okay. Amir Abdullah is terrible.
yeah.
But second round, what do you really buy in there? It's hopes
No,
and
I
dreams.
don't think it's a bad implication, but I want Gus Edwards over Josh Adams, but I don't see a whole lot of difference as far as their future. Like I not much.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
I still
both-
put Gus, but
Both the
not
running back
much.
areas are in turmoil.
Yeah.
For forever turmoil.
Like if we go into this NFL draft, let's next whatever. with whatever first round pick of the Ravens, they select running back, blah, blah, blah. We're all not going to be like, oh, wow, who could have saw this? I mean, I think we're all just going to be like, well, yeah, makes sense.
And another big thing, too, is, we've talked about this before, it's just not a running back heavy draft. I mean, I just don't know if there's any more talent than Gus Edwards.
Here's what I'll do. I will buy Gus Edwards right now for a second and hold him during the offseason when the hype gets insane. Like, what happened with Alex Collins this year.
I mean, I don't mind second round keeping him.
That's fine. But I would be willing to scout him. Hey,
Yeah.
guys. All this hype. Here's the Gus bus.
All right. What you guys got a player
Yeah.
you're thinking's nice, or would you play over? Okay, so before we move on, where do you say Gus Edwards is for the rest of the year? For me, he's a running back 2.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
I put him in a high running back, too.
Yeah.
For
the rest of the year.
Mid running back,
He,
too.
yeah, he's
no,
mid.
no
He's mid to upper.
bending.
I'd give him a 16.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about something really quick that I want to talk about that I think is really interesting that, a lot of people don't talk about as much. And, I think that this is kind of a sneaky play, a little sneakster. And because I think a lot of times we get into a rut of looking at players the way they used to be or the way they've been for this entire season. We'll say, oh, this guy's a running back 1 this year. But the problem is that when you do that, you miss out on people that have reemerged recently. And you also lose out on people that kind of started off hot but ended poorly. And so I think that all of those things are something we need to consider. So here's what I kind of pulled up. I pulled up the average fantasy points per game in the last 4 weeks for wide receivers. And let me just kind of start cooking through this a little bit. And I want to just see if there's a name that jumps out. Okay? So this is the last 4 weeks, average fantasy points in PPR. Number 1, Tyreek Hill. Number 2, Julio Jones. Number 3, Michael Thomas, Stephon Diggs, Juju, Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Brandon Cooks, Adam Thielen, OBJ, Julian Edelman, Antonio Brown, Amari Cooper, T.Y. Hilton. Those are the top 15 average points per game in the last 4 games they have played. Is there anybody that surprises you? And it's a little bit of the person that you were talking about. There's actually 2 people that maybe 3, 2.5 people that I want to talk about.
Okay.
The first one that kind of shocked me was number 6, Keenan Allen. We talked about this reemergence.
He kind of was falling off at the beginning of the year, and then
averaging 20.8 points per game. I think that he only gets better with Melvin Gordon out. I think that they're going to put the ball more into Phillip Rivers' hands. The guy had freaking 28 completions out of 29 for Phillip Rivers, which I know you can't do every week. But I think that we need to change our mind on how elite Keenan Allen is. I think if you make a move for him now and he does what he did last year, you're going to win championships. That's what I think.
I don't know if he's going to get better. Since Melvin Gordon's not there, the question is also, will they stack the box as much? I mean, Austin Eckler's still there, yeah, but...
And it could be. But either way, he's the number 6 wide receiver in the last 4 weeks as far as average points go. I don't think that people see him as a top 6 wide receiver right now. They see him as a good wide receiver. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they see him top 6. Next person that I want to talk about is Julian Edelman at 12. Once again, last 4 weeks, last 4 games that he's played. But see, I think that we just look at the overall finishes. You know what I'm saying? The sum of those. And we don't look at, well, he missed those 4 games. And then the last one, of course, is Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is averaging 18.7 points per game in PPR.
Yeah. And, I mean, I'll just go into... I was going to say Amari Cooper is someone you need to play for the rest of the year. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah,
So-
go ahead.
Okay. Saints, Eagles, Rams, Bucks, Titans. Those are the 5 worst defenses against the wide receiver. They give up the most fantasy points.
I'm with you.
The Cowboys in the next weeks will be playing the Saints, the Eagles, the Colts, and the Bucks. In that order.
Strong.
Carries you into the playoffs, and then you play the Colts, which don't have a great it's not a good or a bad defensive against wide receivers, and then the Bucks. It just screams, yes, please. Also adding to that, has a 25% target share for the team.
I'll add on to your point. Right now, Amari Cooper in the last 4 weeks has seen 7 targets in the red zone. So that means that they look at him. And where does this rank among other wide receivers in the last 4 weeks? This ranks as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th best out of the NFL, where Devontae Adams leads with 9, Stephon Diggs at 8, D.D. Westbrook at 8, Odell Beckham at 7, DeAndre Hopkins at 7, Amari Cooper at 7, Larry Fitzgerald at 6. And I think that's the other person. I think that Larry Fitzgerald is also a sneaky grab right now. If you're able to, if your trade line hasn't passed, and if you're one of those people, I feel like we get so many questions recently for Larry Fitzgerald on the Twitter saying, hey, do I play Larry Fitzgerald? I'm like, I'll just tell you, a lot of the times you all keep saying Larry Fitzgerald or this guy, I keep going Larry Fitz. Because he started off terrible, just straight booty. I mean, 2 point, 5.8, 5.5. But the last weeks, 11 points, 16.3, 11, 26.2, 14. That takes you all the way back the last, 5 or 6 weeks. He is a wide receiver, too. No problem.
Yeah. And another wide receiver, too, over the last 4 weeks that I think we should touch on is DJ Moore.
Yes.
Now, this is... again, like you were saying, we don't look at players how they've been recently. It's more of a season long. Over the last 4 weeks, yeah, he's been that way. But over the last 2, targeted 8 times with 7 receptions for 157 yards and 1 touchdown. Yeah, there's some extra yardage in there that I would say is not normal. Like, he had an 82-yard reception. Let's take that down to 40. He still has 117 yards and 1 touchdown. And then Seattle last week, 9 targets with 8 receptions for 91 yards, getting 17.8 points. You know who he's playing for the next 4 weeks? The Bucks, the Browns, the Saints, and the Falcons.
Oh,
3
God.
of the worst passing defenses in the league.
Yeah, I mean, that's who I was going to say. I mean, DJ Moore has made his name.
Is that why you were upset?
Yeah. And I also have Gus Edwards, but whatever. He's gonna have such an easy schedule going forward. He's made his name above Devin Funchess.
Yeah, Funchess has not been worth talking about.
You know, and so, I mean, DJ Moore is definitely we faded him in the beginning, but now we have to play him.
You have redeemed yourself.
Yeah, you know, just like Amari Cooper. But, you know, and speaking of the Panthers, we don't have to go into this real quick, but you know who the wide receiver 22 is right now? Christian McCaffrey.
Wide receiver 22?
He's a wide receiver 22.
I'm so glad you traded him in that dynasty league to me. Of course, you also got Kareem Hunt, so, you know.
And AJ Green, but we saw how that worked out. Yeah, now, you all have been talking about people that you all are in love with going forward. I want to talk about somebody. I'm just going to bring him up, and it's going to be open forum. And let's be honest, this individual...
Wait, we do a podcast different than that?
This individual is not based off of matchups. This individual doesn't care about what defense they play. It's someone that people drafted, probably, if you drafted him too high. And he has sadly disappointed over the majority of the season. So I know there's people out there that's sitting, and he has been a plug and play, and regretfully, he's been a plug and play for the last few weeks, and he's not returned dividends. But what do you do with Aaron Rodgers at this point?
I actually have a note in here about that because I wanted to touch on it.
He is a streaming matchup play. He is not a plug and play.
Well,
he has been
even against matchups though. He's not producing.
Well, here's the thing. Over the next 4 weeks, the only team with a defense that is favorable to quarterbacks is the Falcons. That is the only one.
So that's the only one I'm playing him in.
Okay, here's my question. In a Superflex league, I have Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, and Deshaun Watson. Here's my I think I'm definitely playing Dak Prescott because of his matchups. And Deshaun Watson.
I'd play both of those over Aaron Rodgers right now.
Okay.
I mean, the problem is at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers has thrown up. I heard it on a podcast. Like 33% of his games, he's been a quarterback one for this year. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know what's going on in Green Bay, but it ain't pretty.
Yeah, I read somewhere he has as many throwaways almost as Drew Brees has incompletions.
Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of it has to do, and I don't want to make excuses, but when you pay Aaron Rodgers what you paid him, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve that. That's not what I'm saying. But then you have to manage your money really well. I was listening to that game Sunday night. They had 12 rookies starting. 12 out of a 22-man starting roster. Half of your roster, our starting people, are rookies. Mm-hmm. My gosh. Like, that is just so hard to work with. And we saw at the beginning of the year, too, Aaron Rodgers got a little saucy at the beginning of practice or something and made a statement of our wide receivers just aren't cutting it. They aren't doing it enough. And everybody was like, oh, that's so bad. He's bashing his teammates. And he came out and was like, no, I mean, I'm just calling for what it is. They're not doing enough. Like, I need them to be. And we saw this happen with MSV. He got a little flash, but now he just fell apart. Now, all of a sudden, I mean, really, other than Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, the rest of the team just is not in sync. And I don't know what's going on. But as of right now, Aaron Rodgers is quarterback 8 for the year.
And you drafted him as quarterback 1.
But this goes back to why we say we never draft quarterbacks early. I mean, Deshaun Watson was drafted very early. Aaron Rodgers was, drafted very early. In my work league right now, I'm rocking Mitch Trubisky, and I'm doing just fine. And same thing with defense. I mean, how many people drafted the Jacksonville Jaguars first defense? Yeah,
auto-drafted, yeah, I did.
I mean, you can find them on the waiver wire right now. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. And so this is why we kind of, shy away from it. And I think this goes back to like what we were saying is look at the recent polls because Aaron Rodgers is quarterback 8. Dak Prescott is quarterback 14. But the last few weeks, we have seen a completely different mindset. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm playing Dak over Aaron Rodgers. And that may be hot, but I am. Sorry.
So, I guess moving on from this, we've talked about Aaron Rodgers. James Conner, over the last 4 weeks,
been poop.
He is averaging as running back 15,
which honestly is what you should expect from James Conner. But we've been just all nestled into this 40 points a game for Big Daddy.
I was hoping.
And now all of a sudden when he comes back down to earth, we're like that surprise Pikachu face. It's like, he didn't poop on you. He just didn't get you 30 points. And it's like, well, yeah.
So, I mean, I just feel like this is a rut. This isn't necessarily, this is how James Conner's going to be 10 points a game. I think it's just more of a rut compared to...
This is not James Conner's fault. This is not the fact that he's getting the ball and he's just not producing. I mean, this week he had 13 carries, 53 yards. He caught 4 balls for he caught 4 receptions for 42 yards. He just did not get the touchdown. And here's the thing is, I mean, he should have. If you watched the Steelers game, they should have ran the ball with him in the red zone instead of trying to force the ball to Antonio Brown and subsequently get an interception. If James Conner would have got that touchdown, for instance, in our league, you're looking at him getting 16.5 points plus the yardage. I mean, or the catch. So, I mean, that's not bad. He has the Chargers coming up. He has Oakland coming up. He has New England coming up. I mean...
These are all favorable matchups.
Yeah, these are all favorable matchups.
If anything, this just tells me go out and buy James Conner in Dynasty because people are already wavering. Is he the future of Pittsburgh? Is he the whatever? I have been on the boat that he is the future of Pittsburgh.
Only is he... There's the on-the-field stuff. You're like, yeah, he's a decent running back. But the off-the-field stuff is also important.
100%.
He's from there. He had cancer, and he recovered from it. And he is in so many community things for kids with cancer
Yes,
and things like that.
absolutely.
That he's a part of the city.
Let me ask you this question, okay? And we'll see. James Conner's trickling downwards just a little. Aaron Jones is shooting through the roof. Would you trade Aaron Jones for James Conner?
Yeah. I want James Conner out of those two.
Absolutely.
Okay. But see, this is what I agree with that, but I'm saying is that I think you can get that done. I think that you could come to the James Conner owner and say, hey, here's Aaron Jones.
That'd be tough.
Just say,
Yeah, okay, so
food for thought.
But aside from just the dynasty and trading for him, obviously, if you're again the big thing about that we talked about before we started the show tonight was, people are in two modes right now, or three modes maybe, as Nick and I were talking about. You're either pushing for a playoff spot, you're either completely out of the playoffs, and you just don't even care anymore. You're just not even setting your lineup. Or number three,
Forget it.
you are just so prideful that you're still setting your lineup because you want to play. If you're in any of those positions, if you're pushing for that playoff position and you're saying, "Hey, every game right now is a must-win for me," do I play James Conner at this point, even though
Yep.
for the last two times he's not scored, or the last two games he's not scored a touchdown? Absolutely. I mean, he's still a running back one. You still play him. He is a plug-and-play. Forget about it. He's matchup-proof. You just play him.
All right, so let me talk about going back with this last 4 weeks, just talking about that because I think that's important. And you can make this last 5 weeks. Now, these are the last 4 games that these players have played. Okay. The leading rushing attempt person is Nick Chubb. In the last 4 weeks, Nick Chubb has had 88 attempts. 88. That's 22 a game in the last 4 weeks. In front of, 3 carries in front of Ezekiel Elliott, and also 7 carries in front of Leonard Fournette.
Who, by the way, breaking news, he is suspended just 1 game.
What a jerk. Well, glad I just picked up Carlos Hyde in one of my leagues. All right, so.
But playing TJ Yeldon next week.
Ooh, that's a debate. TJ Yeldon or Nick.
Well, I have
Hyde.
no. To me, it's TJ Yeldon or Frank Gore. Which one do you play?
The Immortal
Or Kib. I think I can play Kib as well.
All right. Well, anyways, let me read off the top 5 carriers for the last 4 weeks. Nick Chubb, Zeke, Leonard Fournette, David Johnson, Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
just food for thought. I mean, I think it's just really interesting how much faith and workhorse, and this is what I talked about too when, the beginning of the year, is that they want a workhorse running back, and I think we're seeing it. And I think another person that I want to kind of briefly talk about too is, as far as receptions go, let's talk about this. Christian McCaffrey is leading in the last 4 weeks in receptions at 27 receptions. Guy's been a beast mode. Right behind him, though, when you still know the status of carry-on, Theo Riddick with 25 receptions in the last 4 games he's played. Right after that, Saquon. Right after that, Zeke. And then right after that, James White. So let's talk very briefly about Theo Riddick. And I also want to talk very briefly about James White. I mean, Jonathan and I had a little brief discussion before we started recording. Then we realized, hey, we probably should start recording. Is what to do with James White? And I want to toss in the hat here of Theo Riddick. By the way, Zeke is up there with the most receptions, which I thought was kind of interesting. He's above Todd Gurley, James Conner, and even Tariq Cohen, which I don't think. And David Johnson. And I don't think that a lot of people realize how much Zeke is getting in on the passing game. So anyways, Theo Riddick, is he a start to you at this point? What do you all think?
Yes, I started him last week.
Okay. Now, once Carry-On comes back, I think this is he goes away. It's a Cinderella story gone wrong.
Yeah.
But last few weeks.
Well, I mean, since week 9, he's had 3 weeks over 10 points. In PPR.
In PPR, yeah.
So, I mean, that's depending on how deep your
and
league is. That could be a running back
10
league
points,
flex
he got
spot.
8.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
And, I mean, he got 10.6, 12, 8, and 13. in that order. And he got 12 points against Chicago, and then 13 points against Chicago. Wow, they played Week 10 and 12.
Yeah, I'm well aware as a Bears fan. We also played the freaking Minnesota Vikings in between that. We had 3 interdivision things in 12 days. 12 days, we played 3 people in our division. I was like, who made our schedule?
Okay, so we were talking about James White, or we're about to talk about James White. Sonny Michel had an injury scare. He's fine. But now Rex Burkhead is now back on the team.
Yeah.
Does this affect James White?
I don't think it does.
I think it affects Sony more.
I agree.
I think
it
James
affects
White
Sonny
is still James White. I mean, even though Sonny Michel had a great game this week, James White still had 9 carries, 73 yards. He did just catch 1 pass on 5 targets, which really limited his production. But he still got 5 targets, and he made the most out of his 9 carries. I mean, I still play James White unless I have a better option.
Yeah, so where are you expecting Sonny Michel to be in these next few weeks? I mean, Rex Burkhead blew it up last year. He actually had a better yards per carry than Deion Lewis, who everyone was raving about. The only reason Deion Lewis did so well is because Rex Burkhead was injured for part of last year.
But I think
Surprise Pikachu face.
even though Rex Burkhead performed at a high level, I think James White is performing at a higher level with the current offense.
Sonny Michel, though. How does this affect Sonny Michel?
I think this muddies the water for the whole backfield. I think I'm still playing Sony. I think I'm still playing James White, but I think that I have less confidence in those two, and I think it also caps a little bit of their certainty, and it caps a little bit of their ceiling. And I think too that I don't want to play Rex Burkhead unless it's a dark time. And
I'm in a dark time. Melvin Gordon just went down. It's a dark day.
I'm that kid underneath the tent. The lights are out. My flashlight just went out. And the only thing I can find is a glow stick
Listen,
named Rex Burkhead.
I have Kerryon Johnson and Melvin Gordon in this league. I need something.
I just don't know that Sonny
It's just
Michel is
one-
that affected. I mean, 21 carries, 133 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
The thing is that the Patriots have do this all the time.
Yeah, and my problem is too. It's like you're like, oh, he's not effective. So Rex Burkhead's getting 0 carries because if he gets 1 carry, that's 1 carry away from somebody.
Why would they bring him back off IR if they didn't have to?
No. I get it. But I think it probably affects James White more than it affects Sonny Michel.
I don't think so.
See, I'm on the other side of that fence too.
I mean, James White, this game, even though Sonny Michel had to leave the field, 9 carries to 21 carries. I mean, James White had 5 receptions versus Sonny Michel's, or five targets versus Sonny Michel's 2 targets. I mean,
but I feel like Rex Burkhead is more of an in between the tackles goal line carry, where James White's more the pass catcher there. So if Rex Burkhead's the goal line / in between the tackles, that sounds like Sony's job.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
It's okay to be wrong. It's fine.
I mean, so you take the last game that a guy completely got in 21 carries, 133 yards.
Yeah, that's not bad. I'm not telling you it's bad.
I mean, no, it's great. I mean, it's really good.
Oh yeah,
It's really
yeah.
good.
And remember that one time when Bill Belichick took Jonas Gray and did that?
Remember that one time he took Blunt and did that?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I agree. I love Sonny Michel, and I think that he's fine. I'm not saying that he's not, but I'm saying is that Bill Belichick could literally. I mean, Sonny Michel's one missed practice away from them benching him and Rex Burkhead doing that. I mean, this is the Patriots. Like, it's just, and that's why I've always been kind of more on this. Like when James White a few weeks ago was the new hotness, and Sonny Michel was the new hotness, and everybody was like trying to trade for him. I was just like, I just don't know if I can get on this boat. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I just, at one point, Rex Burkhead will come back. At one point, they'll have some random a-hole from the practice squad just come, and it just muddies the waters. Like, it really does. I mean, remember the Patriots of old when there wasn't injuries. You just sit here and go, I don't know. One of them will have a 30-point game. I don't know which, but one of them will.
But I just think if you rank the three,
I'm not. Rex Burkhead is at the bottom of that.
he's
100%.
most definitely at the bottom of it. But I think James White is second and Sonny Michel's third. I think if any work, if we're gonna,
You mean first, like Sonny Michel's best?
yeah, I think if you do a distribution of just offensive snaps
As a math teacher, continue.
or just targets and carries, I think Sonny Michel gets the most workload, followed by James White, followed by Rex Burkhead. I mean, how do you say no to that? I mean,
No,
it just happened.
I don't disagree, but the fact that when you add a third person, carries have to be taken from somewhere. Period. So then now you've just capped Sonny Michel and or James White. You have to. There's no way that Rex Burkhead takes 0 snaps.
No, but in the biggest, I mean, what this question matters for is who's the lead back in New England?
Oh,
Sonny
Sonny.
Michel.
I didn't disagree.
So the question is as a James White owner, do you start James White?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just because of it, in PPR,
He's the 9th ranked running back right now.
Well, and I mean, not only that, but I mean, the last 4 weeks I just told you about the reception total. I mean, the last 4 weeks he's been catching the ball. He's the 5th best at it out of the whole entire NFL. In PPR, I can't just ignore those catches.
Oh, you can't even.
So compared to last week, though, if we're taking carries away from, let's say he takes 2 carries away from James White and 1 pass. Let's say that was last week. Then he ends up with 7 carries and he ends up with 4 targets. So 7 carries, 4 targets. It's not a lot of work.
Well, it was 4 catches. It wasn't targets.
It was 5 targets. He had 2 catches on 5 targets, or 1 catch on 5 targets.
James White had 1
catch for 5 targets.
That can't be
right. That's fact. That's absolute fact.
Fact.
You're crazy. You're insane.
So I mean, what do you do? I mean,
I'm
not against trading James White. That's not my point. But unless I've got something crazy, I can't imagine benching him.
So here's a question:
I need some comparatives. Like, who am I benching him
Here's
for?
my exact situation right now in our main league: James White or Matt Breida. I mean, they're both relatively. They've both been performing relatively.
I would go Matt Breida just because of the amount of usage. But yeah, you're right. He had 5 targets, 1 catch. I mean, I don't know. It's very rare. That's a very low amount of catches for James White.
Gronk also had 7 targets and 3 receptions. So could have just been a good defense.
The Jets.
They don't have a terrible defense.
They don't have a good one.
They don't have a good one. They don't have a terrible one. All right, you guys have anything else you want to touch on before we head out?
Hide your kids. No, I. That's it.
Red Dead Redemption, guys.
Not what I'm going to do when I go home.
We're gonna play. We're getting online this week. More than likely, it's gonna be the beta. We'll create a posse.
We're going to be called the franchise.
Oh, that's.
I thought, what else?
We're the Pirates of the Pancreas.
Yeah, get real.
Yeah, I thought it was a great ride. You all should try it out.
But yeah, check us out on Periscope on Sunday morning. If you have any questions, at me.
Yeah, and in the website, thefffranchise.com. Great articles. All of our crap is there.
It's all crap.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Football Franchise Podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Follow us at F3Pod.
You're welcome. We put a lot of time and energy and love into this.